The battlefield was a wasteland of shattered ice and scorched earth, the remnants of a war that had raged for centuries. The once pristine glaciers now lay in jagged ruins, their crystalline surfaces cracked and blackened by relentless bombardments. Above, the sky churned with an unnatural storm, its swirling clouds streaked with veins of crimson lightning. The air was thick with the acrid stench of burning ozone and the metallic tang of spilled blood, both alien and human. Amidst this chaos, the cries of the wounded echoed like ghostly whispers, carried on winds that seemed to mourn the destruction. The conflict between the glacier aliens and humanity had been inevitable, though no one could pinpoint the exact moment it had begun. For generations, the two species had coexisted uneasily, separated by vast distances of space and an even vaster chasm of misunderstanding. The glacier aliens, with their translucent, crystalline bodies and ethereal presence, were beings of beauty and mystery. Their culture revolved around harmony with nature, particularly the frozen landscapes they called home. Humanity, driven by ambition and expansion, saw these icy realms as resources to be claimed and exploited. Diplomatic efforts had failed time and again, each side entrenched in their beliefs, until tensions erupted into violence. Now, the war stretched across star systems, but this particular skirmish was fought on a desolate moon orbiting a dying star. It was here that the glacier alien forces had made their last stand, hoping to protect what remained of their sacred homelands. The humans, equipped with advanced weaponry and unyielding resolve, had pushed them to the brink of annihilation. The battle had been fierce, leaving behind a landscape littered with the broken bodies of soldiers from both sides. And yet, amidst the carnage, there was a strange stillness, a pause in the fighting, as if the universe itself held its breath. In the center of the devastation lay the figure of the glacier alien princess. Her form shimmered faintly, even in her weakened state, her crystalline body refracting the dim light of the stormy sky. She was dressed in flowing robes woven from threads of pure frost, now torn and stained with dark, viscous liquid that pooled beneath her. Around her, the surviving soldiers, both human and alien, stood frozen, their weapons lowered but their eyes wary. No one dared approach her, not out of fear of her power, but because of the weight of what she represented. She was royalty, a symbol of her people's struggle and suffering, and her fall was a moment too profound for any to interfere. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional groan of a dying soldier or the distant rumble of thunder. The princess's breathing was shallow, her chest rising and falling in slow, labored movements. Her delicate hands clutched at the shards of ice embedded in her torso, her translucent fingers trembling with pain. Yet despite her injuries, there was an aura of dignity about her, a quiet strength that refused to yield. The surrounding warriors watched her with a mixture of awe and dread, unsure whether to intervene or retreat. In that moment, the battlefield became a stage, and the fate of both species hung precariously in the balance. Amidst the frozen tableau of uncertainty, a lone figure emerged from the human ranks, his silhouette stark against the pale glow of the injured princess. His armor bore the scars of countless battles, dented and scorched, yet his stride remained steady, unhindered by the weight of his past encounters. The emblem on his shoulder, a golden phoenix rising from ashes, marked him as a member of the elite vanguard unit, renowned for their fearless ethos and unyielding spirit. His name was whispered among allies and foes alike with a mix of reverence and caution. He was known simply as Captain Rain. Captain Rain's journey to this moment had been anything but ordinary. Born on the fringes of human territory, he grew up amidst tales of exploration and conquest, stories that painted aliens as either formidable adversaries or exotic curiosities. However, life on the frontier also exposed him to the harsh realities of survival and the nuanced complexities of interspecies relations. As a young recruit, he quickly distinguished himself not just through bravery but through an uncommon empathy that puzzled his superiors. While others saw clear lines of friend and foe, Rain saw shades of gray, potential bridges where others saw divides. His reputation solidified during a skirmish on the icy planet of Cryon 7, eerily similar to the current battlefield. There, amidst the chaos, he had chosen to negotiate rather than obliterate, saving countless lives on both sides. This act of defiance against military protocol earned him both accolades and scrutiny, setting the stage for his controversial ascent within the ranks. Over the years, he had become somewhat of a legend, a soldier who fought not just with weapons but with words, seeking solutions beyond the barrel of a gun. As he approached the fallen glacier alien princess, his mind raced with memories of past encounters, each teaching him something new about courage and compassion. He remembered the first time he truly understood the weight of leadership, the responsibility not just to follow orders but to question them when they led to unnecessary destruction. He thought of the faces of those he had saved and those he had lost, each pushing him further towards the man he stood as today. The other soldiers watched him with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. Some muttered under their breath, questioning his sanity, while others felt a flicker of hope reignite, a reminder that perhaps not all human hearts were hardened by war. As Rain knelt beside the princess, his actions spoke louder than any words could, embodying a belief that even in the darkest times, acts of kindness and courage could pierce through the fog of war. The air around the fallen glacier alien princess crackled with tension, a palpable force that seemed to emanate from the very ground beneath her. Her crystalline body, though marred by injury, emitted a faint, pulsating glow that illuminated the immediate area with a cold, ethereal light. Each pulse seemed to resonate with a deep, almost musical tone, a sound that vibrated not just through the ears but through the very bones of those nearby. It was a sound that spoke of ancient powers and untold secrets, a language older than the stars themselves. As Captain Rain moved closer, the reaction from the assembled warriors was immediate and visceral. Some stepped back instinctively, their weapons half-raised, uncertain whether this display was a prelude to an attack. Others simply gawked, their expressions a mixture of awe and apprehension, unable to tear their eyes away from the spectacle before them. Whispers rippled through the crowd, snippets of conversation blending into a cacophony of fear and wonder. "She's calling to them," someone murmured, their voice tinged with both dread and fascination. "They'll come for her." Indeed, the atmosphere seemed charged with anticipation, as if the universe itself awaited the next move. The princess's wounds, visible now in the eerie glow, appeared more severe than initially perceived. Jagged shards of ice protruded from her torso, and the dark fluid pooling beneath her shimmered unnaturally, reflecting the distorted images of those who dared look upon her. Despite her obvious pain, there was a serene, almost regal quality to her expression, as though she bore her suffering with a grace born of centuries of tradition and sacrifice. Captain Rain paused, his own breath catching in his throat as he took in the full scope of the situation. The proximity to such raw, unbridled power was overwhelming, and yet, it stirred something deep within him, a sense of purpose, perhaps, or maybe just a stubborn refusal to let fear dictate his actions. He glanced around, noting the varied reactions of his comrades and enemies alike. Some looked ready to flee, while others seemed poised to intervene, their loyalty to their respective causes warring with the primal urge to witness whatever might happen next. The moment stretched, elongated by the collective anticipation of dozens of pairs of eyes. Every subtle movement, every flicker of light from the princess's form, was scrutinized, analyzed, feared. And yet, amidst the turmoil, there was a singular focus, an unspoken agreement that the next action would define not just the fate of the princess, but possibly the entire trajectory of the conflict. Captain Rain, standing at the epicenter of this maelstrom, felt the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders, urging him forward, compelling him to make a choice that could alter everything. The moment Captain Rain knelt beside the fallen glacier alien princess, the world seemed to hold its breath. Soldiers from both factions, previously locked in a bitter standoff, now found themselves united by a shared curiosity and trepidation. Human and alien eyes alike followed his every move, their previous animosities momentarily suspended in the face of this unprecedented act. Whispers of disbelief and cautious optimism began to ripple through the ranks, transcending language barriers as expressions and gestures conveyed the gravity of the situation. For the human soldiers, accustomed to viewing the glacier aliens as enigmatic adversaries, the sight of their captain offering aid to one of their most revered figures was profoundly unsettling. Many exchanged uneasy glances, their training and instincts screaming caution, yet an undeniable respect for Rain's courage tempered their fear. Among the ranks, old prejudices were being challenged, forcing each individual to confront their ingrained biases. A young recruit, barely out of training, murmured to his comrade, "If Captain Rain believes there's a chance for peace, shouldn't we consider it?" His voice, though tentative, carried a weight that resonated with many. On the alien side, the reaction was equally complex. The glacier aliens, with their crystalline forms shimmering faintly in the dim light, watched with a mixture of astonishment and guarded hope. Elders within their group, their bodies etched with the intricate patterns of wisdom and experience, exchanged knowing looks. One of them, a venerable warrior known for his strategic mind, stepped forward slightly, his movements deliberate. Though no words were spoken, his gesture was clear, acknowledgement of Rain's bravery and a silent plea for understanding and assistance. This pivotal moment also ignited a flurry of internal debates within each faction. Among the humans, senior officers grappled with the implications of Rain's actions. Would aiding the princess be seen as a sign of weakness or an olive branch? The strategic ramifications were immense, potentially altering the course of the war. Meanwhile, the glacier aliens convened in hushed tones, their melodic language weaving through the air like a haunting symphony. They debated the authenticity of Rain's intentions, weighing the risks of trusting a former enemy against the dire need for healing and unity. As these discussions unfolded, a subtle shift began to permeate the atmosphere. The initial shock of Rain's decision gave way to a burgeoning sense of possibility. Both sides, though still wary, started to entertain thoughts of a future unburdened by perpetual conflict. The image of their leaders, human and alien, engaged in this singular act of mutual vulnerability planted seeds of hope that perhaps peace was not an unattainable dream. The battlefield, once a theater of death and despair, now teetered on the edge of transformation, a testament to the unpredictable power of compassion in the face of adversity. As Captain Rain knelt beside the injured glacier alien princess, the complexity of his emotions threatened to overwhelm him. Each breath he drew was a battle against the tide of fear and doubt that surged within him. His heart pounded not just from the physical exertion of moving through the treacherous battlefield, but from the sheer magnitude of what he was attempting. The weight of potentially altering the course of an interstellar war rested heavily on his shoulders, a burden far greater than any he had faced in his military career. Yet, intertwined with this fear was a profound sense of purpose. He recalled moments from his past, instances where choosing the harder path had led to unexpected alliances and saved lives. These memories fortified his resolve, reminding him that sometimes the greatest acts of bravery are cloaked in vulnerability. The princess's condition was dire, her crystalline body flickering with an unstable light that seemed to mirror the fragility of the peace he hoped to broker. Her injuries were grievous, and the dark fluid seeping from her wounds told a story of pain and sacrifice. As Rain gently extended his hand towards her, he felt a surge of compassion so intense it nearly brought him to tears. This wasn't just an alien princess, she was a sentient being, a leader of her people, caught in the crossfire of misunderstandings and hatred. His empathy for her plight, coupled with a fierce determination to bridge the gap between their species, fueled his actions. Yet, the challenge was monumental. The cultural and biological differences between humans and glacier aliens were vast. Rain knew little of their physiology, and the risk of causing further harm was significant. But his ignorance was not born of negligence, it was a reflection of the broader issue at hand, the lack of true understanding between their peoples. As he assessed her wounds, his mind raced through every piece of alien biology he had ever studied, every diplomatic encounter he had navigated. He realized that this moment was not just about saving a life. It was about demonstrating that understanding and cooperation were possible, even in the most unlikely circumstances. The emotional stakes were high, not just for Rain and the princess, but for everyone watching. Each pair of eyes fixed on them carried its own hopes and fears, its own dreams of peace or dread of continued conflict. Rain felt this collective gaze keenly, a reminder that his actions were a microcosm of the larger struggle between their species. The pressure was immense, but it was also clarifying. In this crucible of emotion and expectation, Rain found clarity. He understood that true courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important than fear. And in this moment, bridging the chasm between human and alien, fostering a seed of peace, was worth every ounce of his fear and doubt. With meticulous care, Captain Rain extended his gloved hand toward the fallen glacier alien princess. His movements deliberate yet imbued with a tenderness that belied the harsh environment. The crystalline structure of her body responded to his proximity, the faint glow intensifying slightly, casting prismatic hues that danced across the battlefield debris. Around them, the stormy sky seemed to calm, the crimson lightning retreating as if in deference to the unfolding scene below. Rain's touch was gentle, his fingers tracing the contours of the largest shard embedded in her torso, assessing the angle and depth without applying undue pressure. "Easy," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the soft hum of energy that emanated from her form. The sound was neither comforting nor threatening, but it filled the air with a presence that demanded respect. He glanced briefly at his surroundings, noting the rapt attention of both human and alien soldiers. Their weapons remained lowered, their gazes fixed intently on the interaction unfolding before them. Using his free hand, Rain reached for the medical kit strapped to his belt. With practiced precision, he extracted a small device designed for field emergencies, a universal stabilizer intended to slow bleeding and reduce shock. Though primarily used for human physiology, its adaptive technology offered a slim chance of compatibility with the alien princess's unique biology. As he activated the device, a soft blue light enveloped the tip, pulsing rhythmically in sync with her own bioluminescent glow. "I don't know if this will work," he admitted aloud, partly to himself and partly to the princess, whose translucent eyelids fluttered weakly in response. "But I have to try." He positioned the stabilizer near the wound, hesitating for a fraction of a second before making contact. The device emitted a low whirring sound as it interfaced with her body, its sensors analyzing and adapting to the unfamiliar anatomy. A collective intake of breath rippled through the onlookers as the dark fluid seeping from her injury began to slow, its flow gradually diminishing under the stabilizer's influence. Rain's brow furrowed in concentration as he monitored the device's readouts, which flickered erratically before settling into a steady pattern. Encouraged by this small victory, he turned his attention to the shard itself. Extracting foreign objects from living tissue was always risky, but removing it without proper tools or knowledge of her internal structure could prove fatal. He needed help, someone who understood glacier alien physiology better than he ever could. His eyes scanned the crowd, landing on the elder alien warrior who had earlier stepped forward. The being's crystalline features were unreadable, but there was a depth to his gaze that suggested wisdom and perhaps even trust. "I need your assistance," Rain called out, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "If you know how to treat her wounds, please, help me save her." For a moment, silence reigned, broken only by the soft hum of the stabilizer and the distant rumble of thunder. Then, slowly, the elder warrior moved forward, his steps measured and deliberate. Behind him, several other glacier aliens followed, their expressions a mixture of apprehension and gratitude. As they approached, Rain felt a surge of relief mingled with renewed determination. Together, they formed a circle around the princess, their combined expertise and care creating a sanctuary amidst the desolation. The elder placed his hand over Rain's, guiding him in adjusting the stabilizer's settings. Through gestures and fragmented phrases in a melodic tongue, he communicated vital information about the princess's physiology, ensuring that Rain's actions aligned with their healing practices. Other aliens assisted by gathering materials from their supplies, translucent bandages infused with cooling agents and vials of luminous liquid that shimmered like captured starlight. As the collaborative effort continued, the atmosphere shifted subtly. The initial tension dissolved into a shared focus on the task at hand, each participant contributing what they could to stabilize the princess. Human soldiers, inspired by Rain's example, began retrieving additional medical supplies from their own kits, offering them to the aliens without hesitation. The boundaries between ally and adversary blurred, replaced by a unified front dedicated to preserving life. Through it all, Rain remained at the center, his hands steady and his resolve unshaken. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon him, but it was counterbalanced by the growing sense of camaraderie and purpose. He understood that this moment was more than just a medical intervention. It was a testament to the possibility of cooperation, a beacon of hope in a war-torn galaxy. And though the outcome remained uncertain, the seeds of change had been sown, nurtured by acts of courage and compassion that transcended species and ideology. As the initial flurry of activity subsided, the battlefield transformed into a surreal tableau of cooperation and contemplation. The makeshift alliance between human and glacier alien soldiers, forged in the heat of necessity, now simmered with an undercurrent of cautious optimism. Captain Rain, still kneeling beside the stabilized princess, felt the shift in the air, a fragile but palpable truce that held the potential to reshape the dynamics of the ongoing war. The elder alien warrior who had guided him in treating the princess now stood silently, his crystalline form radiating a quiet authority that commanded respect from both sides. Around them, clusters of soldiers from opposing factions began to mingle tentatively, their interactions marked by a mixture of curiosity and restraint. Conversations sprouted organically, often initiated by gestures or shared glances rather than words. A human medic, her hands still trembling from the adrenaline rush, found herself explaining the functions of her equipment to a group of glacier alien healers, who listened intently, their translucent heads tilting in unison as they absorbed the information. Nearby, a young alien scout demonstrated the use of a portable energy shield, its shimmering surface captivating a group of human engineers who eagerly asked questions through improvised sign language. The mood was not entirely devoid of tension. Mistrust lingered like a shadow, manifesting in furtive glances and the occasional tightening of grips on weapons. Yet, these moments were increasingly overshadowed by acts of genuine connection. A human infantryman, his face smeared with soot and blood, shared a canteen of water with an alien counterpart whose crystalline body was cracked and dulled from battle. The simple act of sharing sustenance transcended species, speaking volumes about the shared humanity, or perhaps shared sentience, that bound them together in this moment of vulnerability. Captain Rain observed these interactions with a mixture of pride and trepidation. The seeds of understanding were indeed taking root, but they were fragile, susceptible to being uprooted by the slightest misstep. He knew that maintaining this fragile peace would require vigilance and diplomacy, qualities that had been in short supply throughout the conflict. His gaze drifted to the horizon, where the remnants of the glacier loomed like silent sentinels, their icy surfaces reflecting the muted colors of the stormy sky. The landscape, scarred by warfare, seemed to echo the tentative reconciliation unfolding before him, a fragile beauty emerging from destruction. The elder alien warrior approached Rain once more, his movements deliberate and measured. Without uttering a word, he extended a slender, crystalline hand, palm upward, in a gesture that Rain recognized as one of gratitude and respect. The captain mirrored the gesture, placing his gloved hand atop the alien's, feeling the cool, smooth texture beneath his fingers. The moment was brief but profound, a silent acknowledgement of the bond that had formed between them, a bond rooted in mutual respect and a shared desire for peace. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, the assembled soldiers continued their impromptu exchange of knowledge and resources. Fires were lit, their warm glow contrasting sharply with the cold, metallic hues of alien technology. The flickering flames served as a backdrop for deeper conversations, some facilitated by rudimentary translation devices, others relying solely on expressive gestures and empathetic understanding. Stories were shared, tales of loss, resilience, and hope, each narrative weaving a thread into the tapestry of shared experience that was slowly forming between the erstwhile adversaries. In the midst of this evolving dynamic, Captain Rain couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The stabilization of the princess had been a catalyst, igniting a chain reaction of goodwill and collaboration that defied the logic of war. Yet, he was acutely aware that this newfound harmony was precarious, balanced on the knife edge of possibility. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, both anticipated and unforeseen, but for the first time in what felt like an eternity, there was a glimmer of hope, a chance to rewrite the narrative of conflict into one of coexistence and mutual respect. The night deepened, and with it, the resolve of those gathered strengthened. The battlefield, once a testament to division and destruction, now pulsed with the promise of unity and renewal. As Captain Rain rose to his feet, his eyes met those of the elder alien warrior once more. In that shared gaze, a silent pact was forged, a commitment to nurture the fragile shoots of peace that had taken root, to protect them from the storms of doubt and fear that would inevitably come. The journey ahead was uncertain, but in that moment, surrounded by the hum of newfound camaraderie and the soft glow of shared fires, it felt possible. As the night wore on, the atmosphere shifted from cautious cooperation to something more profound, a fragile but undeniable sense of unity. Soldiers from both sides gathered around makeshift fires, their conversations growing less guarded and more earnest. The language barrier remained, but it became less of an obstacle as gestures, expressions, and shared experiences bridged the gap. A human soldier laughed at an alien's clumsy attempt to mimic his salute, while another mimicked the melodic hum of glacier alien communication, earning approving nods from their crystalline counterparts. These small moments of levity were like sparks in the darkness, illuminating the possibility that peace could be forged not through treaties or decrees, but through simple acts of connection. Captain Rain sat near one of the fires, his mind racing with the implications of what was unfolding. The stabilization of the princess had been a turning point, but now he saw how much farther this moment might reach. He glanced toward her, still lying where they had treated her wounds. Her condition remained critical, but she was stable, for now. Around her, a group of glacier alien healers maintained a vigil, their movements precise and deliberate as they tended to her. Nearby, human medics stood ready to assist, their presence accepted without question. It was a sight that would have been unthinkable just hours earlier, yet here it was, a testament to the power of courage and compassion. The elder alien warrior approached Rain again, this time holding a small, glowing orb. Its light pulsed gently, casting soft reflections across his crystalline features. Without speaking, he placed the orb into Rain's hands, closing the captain's fingers around it. The gesture was deliberate, symbolic. Rain felt the warmth of the object despite its icy appearance, and he understood instinctively that it represented trust, a gift offered in gratitude for his actions. Their eyes met once more, and though no words passed between them, the message was clear: "We are with you." Rain nodded solemnly, tucking the orb into a pouch on his belt. He knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. This fleeting truce, born of necessity and goodwill, would face tests far greater than the immediate crisis. There would be those among both humans and glacier aliens who would resist any notion of reconciliation, clinging to centuries of animosity and fear. Yet, as Rain looked around at the scene before him, the shared fires, the quiet laughter, the collaborative efforts, he allowed himself to believe that change was possible. Perhaps not immediately, perhaps not easily, but it was within reach. Dawn broke over the battlefield, its pale light filtering through the storm clouds that had begun to dissipate. The crimson lightning had vanished entirely, replaced by streaks of gold and pink that painted the horizon. For the first time in days, the air felt lighter, almost hopeful. As the sun crested the jagged peaks of the ruined glacier, its rays illuminated the assembled soldiers, casting long shadows that stretched toward one another, connecting even as they diverged. The princess stirred faintly, drawing the attention of everyone present. Her translucent eyelids fluttered open, revealing irises that shimmered like liquid starlight. She turned her head slowly, taking in the sight of the humans and aliens gathered around her. Her expression was unreadable, but there was a depth to her gaze that suggested understanding, and perhaps approval. With great effort, she raised a trembling hand, pointing skyward. At first, no one understood the gesture, but then the elder warrior stepped forward, his voice resonating in a low, melodic tone that seemed to echo across the battlefield. "She calls for the accord," he said, addressing the crowd in halting but comprehensible phrases. "A pact, under the stars." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some exchanged confused glances, while others nodded knowingly. Rain rose to his feet, stepping closer to the princess. He didn't fully understand what the accord entailed, but he recognized the significance of the moment. Whatever it meant, it was something sacred to the glacier aliens, a ritual or vow that transcended mere words. If they were being invited to participate, it was a sign that their actions had earned a measure of acceptance. "What do we need to do?" Rain asked, his voice steady despite the weight of the question. The elder warrior gestured toward the horizon. "Follow, witness." With that, the glacier aliens began to move, forming a procession that wound its way toward a nearby ridge overlooking the battlefield. Human soldiers hesitated at first, unsure whether to follow, but Rain took the lead, signaling for his comrades to join him. Together, the mixed group ascended the slope, their footsteps crunching softly against the frost-covered ground. As they reached the summit, the full scope of the landscape unfolded before them, a vast expanse of ice and rock bathed in the golden light of dawn. At the center of the ridge stood a formation of towering spires, their crystalline surfaces gleaming brilliantly in the sunlight. They were ancient structures, remnants of a time long past when the glacier aliens had thrived in harmony with their environment. The elder warrior led the way to the largest spire, its base engraved with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and shimmer like living constellations. Here, the princess was carefully carried and placed at the foot of the spire, her body radiating a faint glow that harmonized with the structure's ethereal brilliance. One by one, the glacier aliens approached the spire, placing their hands upon its surface and murmuring prayers or pledges in their melodic tongue. When it came time for the humans to participate, Rain stepped forward first, his heart pounding with a mixture of awe and trepidation. He placed his hand on the cool, smooth surface of the spire, feeling a surge of energy course through him. Images flashed in his mind, visions of frozen landscapes untouched by war, of humans and aliens working side by side, of a future where coexistence was not just a dream but a reality. Tears welled in his eyes as he withdrew his hand, nodding silently to the elder warrior. Others followed suit, each human soldier adding their touch to the spire until all had participated. By the time the last person stepped back, the spire had transformed, its glow intensifying until it rivaled the rising sun. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, vibrating through the very bones of those present. It was a sound of unity, of promise, a declaration that the accord had been sealed. In the weeks and months that followed, the events of that day spread far beyond the battlefield. News of the accord traveled quickly, carried by messengers from both factions who recounted the story with reverence and hope. Negotiations began in earnest, facilitated by Captain Rain and the elder warrior, whose bond had grown into a genuine friendship. Though progress was slow and often fraught with setbacks, the foundation laid on that ridge endured. As for the princess, she survived, her recovery guided by the combined efforts of human and glacier alien healers. She became a symbol of the new era, her presence reminding all who saw her of the sacrifices made and the bridges built. And Rain. He returned to his duties, forever changed by the experience. The glowing orb given to him by the elder warrior remained close at hand, a reminder of the trust placed in him and the responsibility he bore. The war did not end overnight, but the seeds of peace had been sown. In the years to come, historians would look back on that fateful day as the beginning of a new chapter, a time when two species, divided by fear and misunderstanding, chose to stand together beneath the stars.